Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Mark with Hire a Home Inspector. I'm here with Clark Booth from Clark Booth Property Inspections, based in Phoenix, I believe, right, Clark?
Yes, we serve Phoenix, Mesa, and the surrounding areas.
Awesome. Okay. So thanks so much for doing this, Clark. Yeah, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about what you were doing before we met? What were you using for leads?
I was using Home Advisor and Angie's List, which is actually the same company. Most people don't know that, but they are. And I was using that as a source of leads. And I was also doing just word of mouth, people that I know, and referrals from local individuals here and past clients.
Got it. And you've been doing home inspections for a long time, and you're on like a board or something that um, you were telling me the other day. What does it do?
Oh, that's correct. The state of Arizona has what's called the State Board of Technical Registration, and that's the state agency that regulates architects, engineers, and home inspectors, and prescribes our standards and the things that we are supposed to do when we perform an inspection.
Got it. Okay. Very cool. And so I think I called you almost a year ago now. And
Yes.
So what was it that made you want to give it a shot? I mean, you were getting leads from Home Advisor, but I'm guessing you thought things could be a little bit better.
That's correct. The problem that I had with Home Advisor is I had relatively little control over the leads, and I certainly had no control over the quality of the leads. And they made it difficult for me to get credit on less than legitimate leads. And one thing I found that they did consistently, and they did this dozens of times, not just once or twice, it wasn't a fluke. I had customers tell me that they went on a website for an engineering company in California, in someplace way outside of Arizona, and the lead ended up getting routed to me for structural engineer or electrical engineer to inspect some part of a property. Well, that's clearly outside the scope of my license as a home inspector. And so obviously I cannot legally go out and perform that inspection. And it's true that Home Advisor does have a possibility of getting a credit for those kinds of leads. The problem is that, can you still see me?
No, we lost you. So let me just
Okay.
Okay.
I just got a call. So
Okay.
I got interrupted there. Anyway, so they would have a process, but I would have to call in on a live phone call, wait on hold, sometimes up to 10 minutes, and then explain to the operator why that lead was not legitimate, because it's outside the scope of my license. But the customer, and many different customers who never met each other, told me the same story, that they had specifically requested an engineer or an appraiser to appraise the value of a home, or somebody that's not a home inspector, but Home Advisor or Angie would capture that lead out on the internet and then funnel it to me and 4 or 5 other inspectors, knowing, in my opinion, they knew that this is not a legitimate lead, but they charge anywhere from $30 to $50 per lead. And they know that relatively few of their pros, as they call us, the providers, or professionals, would actually take the time to sit down for 10 or 15 minutes on a phone call on hold to get credit for the lead. So let's say they would scatter the lead to 5 different people. They would make anywhere from $150 to $250 in a 10-second period. That goes to our credit card that we have on file. They bill us, and only a tiny percentage of those, that would happen time and time again, and only a tiny percentage, maybe 5-10% of the the guys in the service would call back and say, hey, give me credit for that because I couldn't have done that job no matter what. So it's a numbers game for them, in my opinion. They're just trying to capture as much money as they can, even if the leads are not particularly legitimate. That was just one thing.
Got it. Okay. So essentially they're making you jump through hoops to get credited for that lead. And
Yes.
just guessing that, yeah, well, some people are going to jump through those hoops, but some people are like, you know, screw it, I don't have the time. And
yes, I'm sure that 80 or 90% of people don't want to sit on a phone call for 10 or 15 minutes to ask for credit, then have it go through their process, wait 2 to 3 business days to find out if they're going to get credit or not. And so the vast majority of people would just pay the bill and move on. And of course, that's one of the things I got very tired of, because over the time that I was with them, which was several years, off and on, actually, I don't even want to go back into it, but I was actually started with them back in 2003.
Wow.
If you can believe that. And I left for a while, and then I came back in like 2017. So I've had a long-term relationship with them. And these practices have gotten worse, in my opinion, rather than better over time. It seems like they're just money hungry and they want to grab every dollar they can from the people that they charge, and they don't leave you a lot of options. And I started going on blogs and looking on YouTube videos and all kinds of things like that. And I'm not the only one. There's thousands of people that are very upset and dissatisfied with Home Advisor. So when you called me about a year ago, you told me that you would give me results and the exclusivity of the leads. And I thought that was a very interesting contrast. So we started talking and we established some kind of a relationship. And I was impressed by the fact that you didn't even charge me for the leads until after I had seen them and had a chance to vet the person. And I had a few occasions where someone would call based on, they were looking for an appraiser, an engineer, somebody not a home inspector.
Yeah.
And it just ended up where you gave me immediate credit. You never charged me in the first place. So I never had to pay for any of those. And fortunately, we were able to develop a trusting relationship where you knew I was not going to make up a story about a bad lead. And the bad leads were very few and far between, but when they did eventually, inevitably would pop up once in a while, you never gave me any grief about that. So I appreciate that very much. And the other thing, to your credit, is that there were times when obviously you were casting a wide net, because there were times when the customer would make a mistake about the address of the property to be inspected. And I would occasionally get calls from people even out of state or very far away from me in Arizona that were just too far to go to. And you gave me immediate credit for those. But that wasn't because of your technology. It's because they would enter mistaken information.
Yep. Yeah. So in essence, it's essentially saving, it sounds like, a lot of time and probably a lot of frustration in having to ask for credits for the leads, getting irrelevant leads. And if you had to sum it up, is that probably the most valuable thing, just not wasting your time with these leads that aren't, relevant to, what you do and where you do it?
That's correct. And also, because every time I would call customer service at Home Advisor or Angie's List, I was getting a low-level operator on the phone. None of them had any decision-making power.
Yeah.
They would all I have to go through an interview process, give them all this information verbally on the phone after waiting on hold for 10 to 15 minutes. And then finally, they would take it under consideration, pass it up to a supervisor, and then I would have to wait 2 or 3 days to get a credit. And there was a few times they actually denied me a credit, no matter how legitimate my complaint was. There was actually to their credit, most of the time they gave me credit, but there was a few times they denied me, even when I had a fully legitimate complaint. And we're talking over a long period of time and hundreds of leads.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I thought was disheartening about dealing with them is sometimes I found out that I was calling these people back in as little as 30 seconds to a minute when I was really hungry for work and I had my leads on and ready to go. And from the experience you and I have had, I'm pretty much on top of my phone.
Yeah, you always answer, you're on the ball.
Right. I answer quickly. And still, I would be back in contact with these people within 30 seconds to 90 seconds. And they would say, no, I already got somebody else, because they were getting bombarded by 4 or 5 people at the same time.
Yeah. And that's got to be frustrating as well, because even when you're on the ball, you might be the second one, someone's a little quicker than you, and then, they get the job, which probably happens a lot. The first person to make contact, if they get a fair price and they do a good job, which I know you're really good on the phone, but if you can't get someone on the phone, you really have no chance in the first place. And were most of the leads you were getting through them, were they mainly just like form requests where they just send you their data and it notifies you have a new lead and then you call? Or were you getting many calls from Home Advisor, or how did that work?
That's the other thing that I was disillusioned about. When I first signed up with them many years ago, they told me that I would have an option where I could get live on a phone call with a Home Advisor operator and the customer on a 3-way phone conversation. And that never materialized. I offered to pay them extra to sign up for this program, but that was the salesman who got me signed up. And the salesman, once I signed the contract and paid a deposit to get started in an annual fee, of course, he disappeared. And then they said, oh, I have no idea what he was talking about. We don't have that program. Because I did want to pay a premium for exclusivity and the ability to speak live to a customer on the phone. Yeah. Because I knew I would have a high close ratio. But that never happened.
Yeah. What would you say your close ratio is with the leads that I've been Hire a Home Inspector has been, providing for you?
Well, that's really hard to answer. And the reason is because people will think I'm lying.
Well, let's hear it.
It's about 80 or 90%.
Wow. I believe it though. I've heard you on the phone. I've listened to your calls. You're very, very good at speaking to prospects. You just know your stuff, and you're very patient.
Well, thank you. And I have found through experience, if because very few home inspectors answer their phone. They're always on the roof or in the attic or talking to somebody. They've got 1,000 reasons why they don't answer the phone. Or if you call a home inspection company, you get some secretary, some assistant that doesn't really know what a home inspection involves that much. So people don't get quick and correct answers. Yeah. So that's the reason that I think, because I was able to have the option for a direct phone call, that did help my close ratio considerably. Very few times can people actually speak to the owner of the company on the phone. But those leads that you give me are about 90% golden, and I end up closing the deal within a 5-minute phone conversation. We put them on the schedule, and 2 to 3 days hence, we're able to perform their inspection.
Wow.
And another thing I might add, I don't know if you do this on purpose or not, but the quality of the people, the demographic of people that I'm dealing with, and it's kind of all races and ethnicities and everything, but I find that the people are just of a higher education and income level. They're smooth, they're easy to deal with. They're a more sophisticated group of people. And I don't want to disparage other companies or anything, but let me just say that has not happened with the other lead sources that I've had. And I'm talking about Google Business, Yelp, Home Advisor, Angie's List. I don't want to say riffraff or bad people, but it's just a lot of really junior level, first-time home buyers who don't have the slightest idea what it is to buy a house, or they're completely disoriented and unfamiliar with the whole process. So I have to go through their learning curve to help them understand what I'm even giving them.
Yeah.
And dealing with a slightly higher demographic, it is very advantageous. People have much more reasonable expectations. They've already done this before. They're not average 20 somethings.
Yeah.
They're more like average 30 to 50 somethings. And they're just at a higher level of individual.
Yeah. And that is one thing. The leads cost a little bit more, but that is one thing I do on my end is you can do some demographic targeting. It's not perfect, but yeah, I've typically found, older 30, 40, 50, and, higher income brackets, that's going to bring you higher quality leads. And with you guys, it's all about just eliminating that frustration, providing higher quality leads, and just cutting out, all the BS that comes with, needing to ask for credits, even though, of course, that does happen once in a while, right? Where we'll get a bad lead that's out of your area or just something that might not be exactly what you do. But you can always text us, hey, that last one wasn't good because of this. And it's like, no problem. We're not going to charge you for it. And of course, yeah, you only pay after you've received the leads. And look, you've been an excellent client. It's June of 2021. We're going to take a break for a little while because the summers are pretty hot there in Phoenix. Gets to what, the 120s or something you were telling me?
Well, yeah, just the other day it was 117. And the problem is that the official temperatures that they report are in the shade at the airport in a grassy area. So that's the official temperature. But when you're up on a roof, I've used my temperature gun on a roof in an attic. It literally gets up to 160 or 70 degrees in the peak heat of the summer.
That's insane.
So it is a very difficult situation to deal with.
That sounds dangerous, actually.
It is.
Okay. Well, I'm glad the past year has gone so well, and I'm looking forward to starting up again, hopefully when things cool down a little bit. But thanks so much for doing this, Clark. I really appreciate it. What would you say to anyone who's considering just trying out? Because as you know, I don't charge anything up front. I just let them try out 5 leads. What would you say to anyone who might be a little disenchanted with Home Advisor or whoever they're using and is considering, using Hire a Home Inspector to provide them with leads? What would you advise them?
Well, I hate to use the phrase no brainer because that would insult the intelligence of someone that was considering using your services. But it really kind of is, because you're acting in good faith. And I've never run across any kind of a lead generation marketing company, anything that helps small businesses where the owner of that company is willing to extend a sort of credit to the new customer to prove to them first that it actually does work.
Yeah.
Every other sort of scheme is you have to pay hundreds of dollars up front and cross your fingers and pray and hope that you're going to get some actual business from that.
Yep.
And more than half the time it never works. And so during the course of a year, if I answered every phone call and got every email, I would spend $10,000 to $20,000 a year in phony schemes and never generate any business from it.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was thinking about all this, I said, look, I know once in a while there might be someone I work with who's maybe not completely honest and I get burned, but I would rather take that risk because that eliminates friction and it makes it, as you said, a no-brainer. So awesome. Hey, Clark, thanks again so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to working again, in September when things cool down a little bit.
All right. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it.
All right.